I promised this would be one of the videos I did sooner rather than later, so here you go. The third part of the series, What If Naruto Were the Ten Tails? For those who need a recap of the events so far, the basic premise is that Hagoromo, instead of splitting the Ten Tails into 9 unique beasts, gave a conscience to one, which may not have worked out well as the beast was later sealed away in a temple. But after Madara found it and attacked Konoha with it, Hashirama and Tobirama managed to defeat it. It then turned into a child that Hashirama adopted and eventually named Naruto. Skip ahead, and Naruto has entered and graduated the academy, alongside his close friends and trusted allies Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura. They end up on Tobirama's team where he treats them to a test to check their determination. As it turns out, they're the most determined students he's ever seen, so they easily end up on the team. But sadly, good times don't continue. Since Hashirama didn't have the 9 beasts to barter and stabilize the world's power balance, war broke out. The First Shinobi World War. Tobirama takes his team in the direction of the Land of Hot Water to face Kumogakure, while Hashirama goes towards Kusagakure to deal with Iwagakure's incoming forces. During his time fighting Iwa's shinobi, Hashirama is cut off from reinforcements and is eventually overwhelmed and killed. Naruto, who was back in Konoha healing from critical injuries sustained on the battlefield, hears this and, well, he's not very happy about it. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. We've also noticed that a lot of folks who watch our videos aren't necessarily subscribed to the channel. We understand that YouTube does do a good job of recommending you the stuff that you want to watch, but if you want to make sure that you don't miss a single video, and if you just want to support the Amagi, make sure you click that subscribe button. Thanks so much. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Tobirama sat by his desk. His head was low, propped on his arm as he read a letter. He put the paper down and sat back in his chair where he rubbed his face and looked up toward the tense low-hanging ceiling. Hashirama, he said as he thought about it. Hashirama was the Hokage. He was the leader of the village. Without him, there was no village. Suddenly, someone rushed into his tent. "Tobirama, sir!" He looked over at the shinobi who stepped in. "Yes." The shinobi's face was pale and sweaty. "Sir, reports have come in that Konoha has come under attack." Tobirama sat forward. "Attack? Who's responsible? Kumo? Iwa?" The man shook his head. "I don't know, sir." Tobirama stood and grabbed his armor and stepped out of the tent. "I'm going back to Konoha. I'm gonna take half of our forces. Keep my marked dagger close to you so I can get back as soon as I'm done. We're going to..." He stopped as he noticed that all the other shinobi had their gazes turned toward the sky. Faces of shock and bewilderment as their unblinking eyes could not be torn away. The sounds of distant explosions had also seemingly died down. Tobirama followed their gaze and witnessed that the moon was crimson as it rose above the horizon. Upon its surface were the markings of tomoe and rings. Tobirama had seen this only once before and knew exactly what it meant. As he gazed at the moon, its light intensified a bit, and with it, carried on the blood-red light, was a howl, a cry from a furious beast. Suddenly, the men around Tobirama fell to their knees and started crying. The sound of wailing and bawling could be heard from camp to camp. Tobirama stood there, the only one not crying. The only reason for this was that he too was feeling what this light was conveying. He'd been feeling it all day, ever since he received the news. He witnessed so much pain and death that he was now numb to the thoughts and feelings carried on the wind. Tobirama looked back at the messenger, who, despite crying, was to his credit still standing by his side. Tobirama spoke. "Belay that last order. I'm going alone. If you don't hear from me in the next 3 days, assume I'm dead. Keep order in the chain of command." The shinobi, rubbing his eyes, nodded. Tobirama would disappear in a flash of white lightning. He would suddenly appear in the Hokage's office where Hashirama had stored his marked dagger. The room was dark, but a subtle red light filtered in through the closed blinds. He pulled them open and looked outside to see a massive figure of a wooden beast standing at the center of the village. It seemed to form a tailed beast bomb in its mouth before biting into it and firing it off instead as a beam of chakra that seemed to decimate a good portion of the village. Tobirama made his way out onto the roof. It was then that some Uchiha shinobi of the Konoha police force appeared. "Lord Tobirama," one cried out. "What are your orders? Shall we attempt to cast Genjutsu on the monster with our Mangekyo unit?" Tobirama looked at the situation, taking a moment to push all personal feelings from his mind. "I highly doubt that the Sharingan will work. If you haven't noticed, this beast possesses a Rinnegan. It may very well be immune to Genjutsu. Try gathering your main forces on the ground. The captain of the Uchiha police force approached him. Not possible, sir. Most citizen and shinobi alike are incapacitated by the pure sorrow reflecting from the moon. Only the Mangekyo unit remains capable of active duty. Tobirama acknowledged the man. Fine. Get a Mangekyo unit out here and have them prepared to utilize Susanoo to create a barrier around the beast to protect Konoha. I'm going to the Hokage's household. Yes, sir, the Uchiha said as they left. Tobirama then jumped from the roof of the Hokage's office down to the streets below. The sound of crying and wailing could be heard through every home. Shinobi and civilian alike were crying due to the emotion being channeled through the infinite Tsukiyomi that Naruto was casting. It was as if he were trying to make all people a part of him. He rushed into the Senju home toward Mito, who was standing on the deck outside the home, looking up. It's Naruto, isn't it? She asked. Tobirama's silence was the only answer he needed to give. Mito wiped tears from her eyes. He's in so much pain right now, she said. He's reflecting it off the moon, Tobirama said. We need to stop this before he hurts people. Mito looked back at Tobirama. Please, don't hurt him, Tobi. Tobirama stood there, his arms folded. Whether I hurt him or not is entirely up to Naruto. Either way, we can't let this tantrum destroy the village. I'm going to need your help. Mito stepped forward toward Tobirama. Please tell me you're going to try and reason with him. Tobirama nodded. I will try, but if I fail, we need to prepare for the worst case scenario, and that worst case will require you. Mito seemed shocked. Are you going to ask me to hurt my little boy? He stood there, silently for a moment. Are you going to ask me to hurt my son? She demanded a second time. Tobirama spoke. I'm going to ask you to do what's right for the village. When we first fought the Ten Tails, I told Hashirama to kill Naruto, but he didn't. He wanted to keep him. I made him promise that if Naruto ever became a threat, that he would not hesitate to do what was necessary to protect what we built together, and he vowed to me that he would. Now the responsibility of that vow falls to you, Mito. If we can't bring Naruto out of this, I'm going to need you to utilize sealing jutsu to seal him away. Can you do that? She shook her head. I don't know. Tobirama stepped forward, toward her, menacing look in his eye. Many people died to make this village a safe place for their children to grow up in. If we let the village be destroyed, then their sacrifice, Hashirama's sacrifice, will be in vain. But you're asking me to hurt my child, she shouted. I'm asking you to think of everyone else's children. What about Hiruzen and Danzo? Will you let them die because you can't tell Naruto no? You're the wife of the Hokage. You've got to act like it. The village needs us now more than ever, and I expect you to show up for it. You make it sound like I don't have a choice. Tobirama turned to leave. That's because you don't. If you don't get your ass out here and help me, then you're not going to be a member of this village anymore. Tobirama started jumping from building to building. In the distance, he saw a rainbow of 7 colors, a wall of Susanoo standing there, blocking off the snarling Ten Tails. They caught its attacks and sent it right back. They launched attacks of their own, but most importantly, they were keeping a tight wall up to protect Konoha. Tobirama jumped to the shoulder of the police force's captain Susanoo. I'm here. Keep a tight weave. He jumped down before the beast. The last time he faced this, he had done so with Hashirama's help. Now he was alone. It spoke louder than any words could. Despite an army of Susanoo standing behind him, he felt alone in this battle. In his hand was a kunai. He looked up into the Rinne Sharingan of the beast. Suddenly, Mito appeared by his side. She was wearing her shinobi gear that she had from the Warring States period. Tell me what to do, she said. Tobirama, without removing his gaze from Naruto, spoke. Utilize your adamantine chains to hold the beast in place. Coordinate with the Susanoo to ensure the beast is held down tightly. I'm going to use my sensory techniques to look for Naruto and see if I can't wake him up. He looked at her. And if I can't, you've got to seal it away. Mito took a deep breath and nodded. I'll buy you time, but you better try your hardest to wake Naruto up. If you fail me, there's nothing the Warring States period, the First Shinobi World War, no feeling they could give you that will be worse than what I will do. I lost Hashirama. I'm not losing Naruto too. Tobirama knew this was not the time to argue with such a headstrong person. Now was the time for action. Just hold it down. He stepped forward. Mito clasped her hands as strong adamantine chains wrapped around Naruto. She began barking orders to the Susanoo, telling them where her grip was weakest and telling them to latch onto it. As they did this, they slowly managed to drag the Ten Tails' legs out from under it. The beast fell to the ground. Tobirama approached it and started utilizing his sensory techniques to look for Naruto. The entire beast was packed with Naruto's chakra, so he had a hard time finding where the boy was. He decided that the best place to check would be where the beast's chakra was strongest, and so he began searching. When he found a particular place where the chakra seemed to be radiating out, he began to drill in until he entered the creature's body. By this time, however, it was beginning to break free from the control of the Susanoo and Mito, but that was okay. He was inside now. All they needed to do was ensure that it didn't destroy the village. Tobirama began to make his way deeper. He couldn't see where he was, so he lit the palm of his hand up with fire-style chakra nature and used it to illuminate the beast. Inside, he found sap dripping and heard the intense sound of wood creaking. As he walked, he couldn't help but feel that maybe he was being watched. He walked deeper into the creature, following the source of its chakra. He walked until he found it. There was Naruto, his appearance having returned to that from which they originally found him, skin pale as ash. He was resting inside of what appeared to be a large amber casing that extended from ceiling to floor. A glow emanated from inside of it, giving light to the surrounding area. Tobirama put his hand to the amber and looked at the boy who hid his face. Naruto. There wasn't much of a response. The area was filled with the sound of crying. In the pools of water around him, Tobirama could see memories of the past from the eyes of Naruto. Every moment involving Hashirama leading back to the largest pool of water, which was when he met Hashirama for the first time. Slowly, each pool was turning a deep red color before blacking out entirely. Tobirama shook his head. No, Naruto. Don't hide away your memories of Hashirama. He's still with you. Naruto's voice echoed inside the chamber, though the boy inside the amber didn't seem to move at all. Why did he have to die? Why did the sage have to die? Why did the people I love have to die? Tobirama stood there and looked into another reflecting pool and witnessed the Sage of Six Paths before Naruto falling to his knees, grabbing his chest. The sage let off a troubled smile before touching his hand to Naruto's cheek and closing his eyes. Tobirama saw the devastation of the Land of Elders and the sealing of the beast into a temple. 1,000 years of darkness until the head of the Uchiha clan found him and forced him to remember his pain and anger. You remember your time before? Tobirama asked. Your time before you met us? The disembodied voice of Naruto spoke. I remember it all. I remember how happy we were. Then he died. And now my new dad died too. How long will it be until Mama dies? Until you? Hiruzen, Danzo, how many people will die? Tobirama put his hand on the shell once more. Death is natural. Everyone dies at some point, and when they do, they get to see those they lost again. There was silence for a brief time before Naruto spoke again. I never die. Huh? Tobirama questioned, hoping for more explanation. I can't die. Not for real. When I die, I become one with nature until I re-emerge. I never go to the afterlife. I'll never see Dad again. For the first time, Naruto within the amber crystal looked up at Tobirama, his eyes full of tears. Why can't I die too? Tobirama began to beat on the crystal, his knuckles becoming more and more bloody until cracks in the shell formed. Then, suddenly, with one last swing of his hands, the shell cracked open and the sap within began to spill out, pulling Naruto with it. Naruto fell right into Tobirama's arms. The moment Naruto was pulled from the sap, there was a thud. Tobirama stood there, holding Naruto, letting him cry into his shoulder. Tobirama had never thought of what a lonely existence Naruto had led up until now. Everything in the world was temporary, save this world itself, and Naruto was a physical manifestation of this world. Since he had been created, he would always continue to exist, forever. And that meant that when those he loved died, he would be separated from them forever. Naruto, you shouldn't want to die. I just want to see my dads again. Tobirama had no idea what to say. He simply moved to the side of the beast and drilled his way out. Stepping out, he noticed that the Ten Tails form was already starting to decay. Mito rushed over to Naruto, removing her haori and wrapping it around him. The Susanoo standing sentinel over the village seemed to evaporate into stardust as their pilots hit the ground and ran to their leader. Mito took him up in her arms. He's so small. It's like he's a toddler again. What happened? Tobirama spoke. He's not a normal human, Mito. He's older than everyone in this village put together. His body takes the form of whatever his mind is feeling, and right now he's a lost and scared child. He just needs time to heal. In about a week, I could see him returning to his regular age, if not perhaps growing older. He's learned a hard lesson today, and I don't see him not growing from it. Naruto would be returned home, where he'd be doted upon by Mito for so long as she could. The two seemed unable to be comforted since the death of Hashirama. A hole had been opened in their hearts so deep that it seemed like it could never be closed. But time does heal all wounds, and just as Tobirama had predicted, Naruto eventually found balance in his emotions and returned to an older appearance, going so far as to appear almost 16 years old as opposed to being 12 like he had been before. In the days after the event known as the Wailing, there was an emergency meeting between Konoha's elders, and it was decided that Tobirama should be immediately upgraded to the rank of Hokage, his title being the second. In his acceptance speech that he made before all of Konoha, he acknowledged his brother as the only man he ever respected to hold the position, telling them that Hashirama led with his heart, which was something Tobirama could never truly hope to match. He vowed to do his best and then announced a commission to have the Hokage monument carved into the face of the mountain overlooking the village, telling them that so long as the mountain stood, the Hokage of Konoha would always watch over their people. This was a kind and beautiful gesture, and a proper expression of love from one brother to another. Besides that, the presence of Hashirama's face on the mountain brought peace and comfort to Naruto and Mito. This was further symbolic for Naruto. Being a force of nature, to see the face of the father who raised him become a part of nature was as important to him as if Hashirama's blood were flowing through his veins. After this, it became known far and wide that Konoha was capable of incredible feats, as the Wailing had shown them. At any point in time, Konoha could simply launch a psychological attack on the world from anywhere, and the world would be powerless to stop it. Because of this, Kumogakure was beginning to believe that it would be best to ally with Konoha instead of combating them, and the second Raikage invited Tobirama to a peace conference where the two planned to cement a deal that would see a relationship of mutual benefit formed. It was during this conference, however, that the Gold and Silver brothers would appear and stage a coup to which Tobirama would barely escape with his life. He would end up in the Konoha hospital for some time, recovering. This simple act managed to keep the First Shinobi World War going longer than needed. The simple fact was that the Gold and Silver brothers hated Tobirama with a passion, ever since the beginning stages of the war, and now they were going to ensure that he was killed and his village destroyed for the times he embarrassed them on the battlefield. Naruto remembered going to the hospital and seeing Tobirama in such a condition. Mito had come as well to see him. She saw Naruto sit down by the bed and take Tobirama's hand. "Are you going to leave me too, sensei?" Naruto didn't leave Tobirama's side the entire time he was asleep. The nurses tried to get him to go back home, but he would merely look at them with his Rinne Sharingan active and vibe animosity toward them to get them to back off. Tobirama would wake up some days later to see Naruto sleeping on his arm. Had he been there this whole time? Tobirama thought about how scared Naruto must have been to lose him, considering his reaction to the death of Hashirama. And so, when Tobirama was finally better, he began to set out with his team back to the front lines. The sun had yet to rise, and they were in a time of twilight, just before the break of dawn. He stood there as Hiruzen and Danzo appeared with their things. "Are we ready to go?" he asked. Hiruzen nodded. "We're just waiting for Naruto." Tobirama looked at him. "Naruto? No, wait, I said we weren't bringing Naruto." Hiruzen seemed a little confused. Are you sure? Because I told him we were leaving today." At about that time, Naruto was seen walking down the road toward them, a pack on his back. Tobirama tried to rub the frustrated expression from his face. Naruto stopped in front of them. "I'm ready to go now." Tobirama stood straight, leaving his position leaning against the door. "Naruto, it seems we had a breakdown of communication. You're not on this mission." Naruto seemed puzzled. "Why not? I'm a part of this team, aren't I?" Tobirama was silent. "Naruto, I'm relieving you of duty." Naruto was quiet for a moment, his face displaying shock. "What?" Tobirama continued. "After the death of Hashirama and my near-death experience, you just don't seem like you have the heart to be a shinobi. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. You can find..." "But I want to be a shinobi," Naruto said, cutting him off. Tobirama took a moment to figure out how best to articulate what he was saying. "Listen, Naruto, it takes a hard person to be a shinobi. I just don't want to see you get hurt worse. Life on the battlefield is hard, and if we die, we can't have you acting out. You're brave and strong, but not everyone is cut out for the same job, and there are other ways you can help the village." Naruto refused this. "Thank you, sensei, but I refuse." This took Tobirama by surprise. "You refuse? What if it's a direct order?" Naruto repeated himself. "I refuse. You know you'll get court-martialed, right?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah, but only if I'm a shinobi. You can't court-martial a regular citizen. Naruto took a moment to think. You're right. I am scared of losing you, or losing Hiruzen and Danzo. But I know that if I'm there, I might be able to help save you. And think of it this way. Wouldn't it be better for me to turn into a 10-tailed monster on the battlefield instead of in Konoha? Tobirama shook his head. Losing control is bad no matter where you do it, because then you'll hurt friend as opposed to just the enemies. You would become a weapon that goes off anywhere. Naruto stood there. Please, sensei, wasn't it you who taught me that loyalty to my friends and to my mission was loyalty to my village? I started this mission with you, and now I wish to finish it, so please, let me come along. Tobirama thought about it for a moment. He looked to Hiruzen, who had a begging look in his eyes. Tobirama sighed and then relented. Fine, but keep control of yourself. Together, the four of them made their way toward the front lines. Once they got there, they continued their mission. Intel gathering, espionage, and sabotage. For months this went on. But eventually, word spread that the Hokage was here on the battlefield, and then, suddenly, the Gold and Silver Brothers and their unit, the Kinkaku Force, appeared to take Tobirama down. They surrounded a group of shinobi, of which only 4 remained. Koharu Utatane, Hamada Mitokado, Torifu Akamichi, and Kagami Uchiha. They used these 4 as bait to pull Tobirama and his team in, and the bait worked. They came to the rescue of this 4-man team. But it became increasingly obvious that they were surrounded on all sides, and even a powerful warrior such as Tobirama himself could not expect to walk out of this alive. Tobirama and his team began to talk about what had to happen. One of us needs to stay behind as a decoy, Tobirama said. Danzo immediately clammed up and refused, but Hiruzen raised his hand, to which Danzo, suddenly sickened by his own cowardice, began to fight with Hiruzen over who would get to sacrifice themselves. In the end, Tobirama smiled at how they tried to take the spot, but shook his head. No, I'll be the one to do it. It's time to leave it to the next generation. Hiruzen, I'm naming you the 3rd Hokage. Naruto reached out and grabbed Tobirama's shoulder. No, uncle, it's me. I'm doing it. Tobirama laughed. No, Naruto, I already called dibs. Naruto stood from their huddled position. Uncle Tobirama, I'm the one with the greatest chance of survival. I have regeneration. Not to mention, if I died, I would eventually reform. It's almost like I'm not dying at all, right? Tobirama shook his head. No, I'm more experienced than you. Your regeneration won't mean anything if you're overwhelmed on the spot. And still, even if you recoalesce into a new 10 tails later on, you're still dying, and I don't want to tell your mother that. Naruto hugged Tobirama. Sensei, when we joined the team, you said that there would come a day where one of us needed to die for the team. A time when we had to set everything aside for the village, for the team, for the mission. This is that time. I refuse to lose you forever like I lost Papa. I'm doing it. He stood. Tobirama grabbed Naruto's shoulder. I'm not letting you go anywhere. Suddenly, Tobirama was frozen in place. Naruto looked back at him with his Rinne Sharingan. I'm sorry, uncle, but I can't let you do it. Tobirama fell back. I'm trusting you all to take care of him. He stepped up to the ledge of the crater where they were hiding. When you hear the fighting start, run. Hiruzen stood. Naruto, please. I'm coming with you. Danzo also stood. Me as well. Naruto smiled and looked back. This is a job only for me. Hiruzen shook his head. No, when we took Tobirama Sensei's test, we all decided it would be better to fall together than to survive alone. I can't let you go alone. Naruto turned back. And I can't let you go with me. Please, don't make me cast you under Genjutsu too. Torifu raised his hand and grabbed Hiruzen's sleeve. Let him go, Sarutobi. He's doing this for us. Tears welled up in Hiruzen's eyes as he embraced Naruto. You better come back. Swear it. Swear you'll come back to us. Naruto smiled solemnly. I swear it, Hiruzen. I swear I'll come back. And with that, he rushed out into the night. Torifu and Kagami were working on lifting Tobirama. Come on, we need to get out of here, Kagami shouted. Hiruzen walked over and helped pick Tobirama up. All the while, Naruto was running through the trees. He saw the Kinkaku Force waiting for him below. He jumped into the air, his silhouette visible only against the stars of the night sky. He weaved handsides. Wood release, secret technique, nativity of a world of trees. He would smash the ground with his hand, causing trees to sprout up and strike or kill anyone in the way. Many members of the Kinkaku Force fell. Naruto then activated his Rinne Sharingan and used them to locate all the others. When he saw Ginkaku, he raised his hand and channeled the Diva Path from it to push him away. But Kinkaku came out of nowhere to strike Naruto, Bashosen in hand. With a swipe of his fan, he launched Fire Nature Chakra at Naruto, causing the wood he had formed to catch fire. Naruto and Kinkaku began to duel in the flames. I wasn't hoping for a runt to kill. I was hoping for Tobirama. Naruto pointed his finger. Tobirama's too good for you. I'm here in his place. Kinkaku continued to step forward as the trees burned behind him. I thought you looked familiar. You're that kid who was with Tobirama all those years ago. Do your arrow wounds still hurt? No? Let's fix that. He snapped his fingers. Suddenly, arrow bolts were fired out of nowhere. Naruto took 3 to the back. He fell to his knees, coughing. As he knelt there, he looked up at Kinkaku. Is that the best you've got? Suddenly, Naruto finished weaving hidden hand signs, and he formed wooden spikes that he proceeded to fire at his enemies. Kinkaku blasted them away with wind style from his Bashosen. Naruto pulled the arrows from his back using vines. This caused him pain, but he slowly let them regenerate. Suddenly, Kinkaku was on him again. Kinkaku was attempting to swing Shichisaiken at Naruto, striking him with the flat, sending him rolling. The two of them stood next to each other. Regardless of if you're Tobirama or not, we're going to kill you. I hope your death bothers Tobirama. The two men came at Naruto. He attempted to defend himself by summoning tree roots at his feet, which grew larger in volume, waving about like the arms of an octopus. Kinkaku was knocked back, but Ginkaku made it through. He swung his blade at Naruto, who pulled his own sword and managed to block and knock it back. Suddenly, Kinkaku summoned the Kokinjo and wrapped it around Naruto's neck, hauling him up into the air, hanging him like a criminal at the gallows. Naruto struggled as Ginkaku and Kinkaku laughed at him. First the founding Hokage, next the second Hokage. We won't stop until there's nothing left of Konoha. Naruto grunted. Never say my father's name. Suddenly, from the tree he was hanging from, a pure, sharp branch sprouted with such force that it pierced clean through Ginkaku. Ginkaku cried out as blood ran from the wound. Kinkaku caught him. Naruto managed to weasel his way out of the bindings. He hit the ground and prepared for more, but was suddenly struck by the Shichisaiken. You dare kill my brother? I'll murder you! Naruto went rolling. His head was bleeding. As he tried to stand, his legs went out from under him. He sat there as Kinkaku pulled out a kunai. Let's see you regenerate when you have no heart. Naruto would use his wood release to form a large wooden fence between himself and Kinkaku. A fence that began breaking down as Kinkaku beat into it more. Naruto managed to stand and regain his balance. Kinkaku pushed through, wielding both the Shichisaiken and a kunai. Naruto, holding his weapon, was ready for round 2. Naruto began to use wood release cutting technique again, but Kinkaku caught them all with his blade. You like wood so much? Have some more then. He would lift Naruto up and push him against a tree. Naruto didn't notice it at first, but the blood trickling down his chest told him all he needed to know. He looked down and noticed that he had been impaled upon it. He managed to pull himself off with some effort, but suddenly Kinkaku came running and punched him straight in the stomach, before carrying him along with the punch through 3 larger trees. He then smashed Naruto into the ground. By the time this attack was over, there was a hole in Naruto's stomach all the way through. Kinkaku pulled his arm out from the gaping wound and crawled on top of Naruto and began to choke him out. Naruto grabbed the hand, trying to stop him, and in that moment, Naruto knew he would die. He saw his entire life flash before his eyes. From his time with Hagoromo to the last moments he spent with Tobirama, his Rinne Sharingan widened as suddenly he formed a truth-seeking orb in his hand and pressed it into the chest of Kinkaku. The orb detonated spectacularly, blowing Kinkaku through the air, causing his shattered body to land in a nearby river, only to float away to destruction. Naruto himself had been launched back by the blast's kickback. Lifting his arm, he realized that the hand he had used to launch the attack had been completely blown off. Naruto couldn't move. He simply lay there in silence as he looked up at the stars, seeing the first touches of orange brightening the day. The sun was making its appearance again. Naruto smiled a little and laughed before a coughing fit nearly caused him to pass out. He was bleeding badly, missing an arm, a hole in his chest, and an even bigger hole in his stomach. He couldn't feel his legs and his spinal cord had been cut. To be honest though, Naruto couldn't feel much, only a sensation of overwhelming cold. The upper part of his body shivered violently. He wondered if this is what Hashirama and the sage felt. He lay his head back. Dad, he said as his eyes seemed to dim. Are you proud of me, Dad? He felt 2 hands grasp his left hand and another pair grabbing his right. His eyes drifted over to the one holding his right. He saw Hashirama there, and on the left he saw Hagoromo. Can I come and stay with you guys for a while? Mito was at home folding some laundry and doing her daily duties. She was currently washing Naruto's favorite outfit, the thing he tended to wear every night it seemed. She smiled as she thought about it. She was unaware that Tobirama was standing outside of her house. He held in his hand a forehead protector. Naruto's forehead protector. They managed to find him later on, and When they did, they were surprised to find that he had single-handedly dealt with the Kinkaku force. Only a few archers had survived. Most amazingly, Ginkaku and Kinkaku had been found dead, one impaled on a tree and the other at the bottom of a waterfall, wedged between the rocks. But this was hardly good news to Tobirama. Naruto's body had been so broken by the battle. Tobirama had not cried in the years since the death of Itama, not until he saw Naruto. He knew that it was because he allowed Naruto to come with him in the first place that he was now dead. How could he ever forgive himself? By the time he had worked up the nerve to knock on the door, 2 hours had passed. As he went to knock though, the door opened. Mito was getting ready to head to the market, it seemed. "Oh, hello Tobirama," she said with a smile on her face. "I'm glad to see you're back in the village. Where's Naruto?" Tobirama swallowed as he felt his heart skip a beat, answering only with one that was twice as hard thereafter. He gripped the headband. She saw it and the way he looked down at it. "Don't say it," she said as tears started to form in her eyes. Tobirama started to say, "He was so brave." Mito collapsed down to her knees. "No, Naruto." Time marched forward. Mito never really recovered from this. She only ever seemed to find happiness again when meeting a young Uzumaki girl, a refugee from the downfall of the Uzumaki, Kushina. She doted upon that girl as if she had always been her mother, but perhaps that was just the mother in her wishing to see Naruto again. Tobirama continued on as the second Hokage for a good time, until the end of the Second Shinobi World War, where he passed the title down to Hiruzen. All the while, Hiruzen had trained 3 pupils, one of which, named Jiraiya, had heard a prophecy that the world would be led to peace by a child of prophecy. He would go on to train many, but there was only one that he thought could fulfill the prophecy: Minato. Minato would later replace Hiruzen as Hokage as the Third Shinobi World War came to a close. He would eventually marry Kushina and the two would become pregnant. And on October 10th, a child would come screaming into existence. A familiar child. A child with a pair of Rinne Sharingan eyes. And that's the end of the story for now. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was sort of a downer there at the end, but something very important to remember is that a hero isn't a hero because he does things without consequence. Sometimes the best stories and the best heroes are heroes who sacrifice themselves for others. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. But as you can tell, the story isn't over yet for Naruto, and it's very possible that I could make a sequel series. But of course, for me to make such a series, I need to see that you guys are interested in it. If you are, please leave a comment down below and tell us, and like the video. Show your friends this series and see if they like it as well. If the video does well, then maybe I'll make it for you. Until then, peace out.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.